Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our third quarterfinal bracket for the Age of Empires 2 Noob Cup. We have the Blap, or Teh Blap, in the blue playing as the Lithuanians versus Fatefiend in the orange playing as the Chinese. And I've got to say, Hiram, as we enter into our first game of quarterfinal 3, one of the things I'm really excited about, I was hoping, when I set up this whole tournament, I was hoping we would run into Budapest. The madness of queuing up and suddenly realizing, wait a minute, why do I have 2 town centers? What am I supposed to do with all of these extra villagers? The first time I got the map, it was madness. I'm thinking, what do I even do here? And I think that our players here are themselves trying to figure out exactly what's going on.
I agree, and I have to say I have never reached Budapest in a ranked game just because it's not been on the available maps whenever I've played. However, just that feeling on some of the mega random maps or the fortress map, you queue up and you've gotten more than you thought, and your initial muscle memory doesn't work.
Right.
If you immediately queue up villagers, maybe you don't have pop room or stuff like that. And so, and it has to be noted that both of these players, as far as I'm aware, are very, very new to the game. So, whereas some of them might have a bit of macro knowledge to rely on to help guide them through that process, they're having to figure it out.
Right.
Just straight up. So, I'm excited.
One of the things that we see right out of the gate, Teh Blap here, she was housed for a while. So, she's trying to pump out villagers, then realizing, wait a minute, I'm housed, I gotta get houses down right away. Fatefiend, thanks to playing as the Chinese, he has a little extra population room with both of his town centers, so he's not having to worry about that. But again, this is the Noob Cup. Both of these players, like you're saying, coming right out of the gate. This may be one of their very first Age of Empires games ever, or at least certainly one of the first ones in a competitive 1v1 scenario. So I think we have with Fatefiend here. I think he probably has not yet realized he's got an entire second town center, or maybe he does, and he's just so focused on trying to make sure that he's got this one and these villagers doing whatever they need to do.
And the Blap snags the sheep on a pass.
Yes.
Will she get it back to her base? Oh, that is a devastating move.
Oop. Will she though?
Oh.
Will she?
Oh.
2 out of 3.
Not bad. She will.
Not bad.
2 out of 3 yep. That's got to feel good.
One of the things
if you're the Blap, if you're Fatefiend, that doesn't feel good at all.
No, exactly. And Fatefiend opening up here with the house, he's going to have the villagers working on food. One of the things I liked is he actually opened up by getting the boar right away. And that's a move that I am seeing more and more often at the professional level is, trying to get a boar faster and faster because you do get more food right out of the gate with the boar. So that's a clever move there. Having said that, go ahead.
I said I agree.
Yeah, especially as the Chinese, because as the Chinese, you already start with additional villagers, and I think that's honestly probably a pretty good segue into talking about our civilizations and what they bring to the table.
Right.
We have again Teh Blap playing as the Lithuanians. Now we've seen them before already in the tournament. I want to say it was Ionites who played the Lithuanians in game 1. So I think in our very first match, he played Lithuanians against Kilometar's Khmer. And the Lithuanians, again, you start with that additional 150 food, which I think is really nice on Budapest. Being able to pump villagers out of both town centers right out of the gate is nice for that extra food. You have an obvious strategy. You want relics because each relic gives your knights and your Latus, the unique unit, +1 additional attack. So you have very, very good cavalry if you go and find the relics and take them in. You also have faster spearmen and skirmishers. So Lithuanians are really nice, but we've seen them before. If you're paying attention to the cup, you know about their bonuses.
And one thing that it's worth mentioning as far as the Lithuanians go, what you don't see in the competitive play often is a relic victory. So if you're the Lithuanians, not only is the relics something that you want to grab several of for the sake of your knights, it's something that if you do grab enough of them, you can win straight up. So if you're wanting to dive down that road, getting all the relics might be a good choice for the Lithuanians here if they know about it.
Right, right. So we'll see if Teh Blap keeps that in mind and enters into the Castle Age with the goal of those relics. Meanwhile, again, we have Fatefiend playing as the Chinese, and the Chinese are one of the most unique civilizations in the game. And the reason why is because they start right out of the gate with an additional 3 villagers, but also minus 200 food and minus 50 wood. And so, what that means is for a normal game, if you're playing on Arabia, you have more villagers collecting resources right out of the gate, but your build order is going to be completely different from a normal one. Because normally you queue up villagers as fast as possible and you start working on sheep. Well, you've already got, that max number of villas, and you can't queue up any villagers. So you'd often would start with loom and then just try to get them on food and wood as quickly as possible.
Right.
It's especially unique, I think, on Budapest. He started with 9 villagers to Teh Blap's 6 instead of 6 villagers to Teh Blap's 3, which I think, if my math is right, is probably a little bit of a nerf for the Chinese if it were a hardcore game, but probably not as bad. The Chinese also, they research technologies faster. So if Fatefiend gets to the Imperial Age, you may have one of the strongest civilizations available. Certainly one of the most flexible civs. The Chinese, a lot of players play them archers, but you can do just about anything with the Chinese. It's sort of the opposite of the Lithuanians, where the Lithuanians have a really obvious strategy. For the Chinese, you could do anything, right?
So that's correct.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it's I would say it's a feather in Fatefiend's cap, because a lot of players, myself included, if you're starting out with a civilization that you think, what can I take advantage of their bonuses easily without a lot of headspace, somebody like the Huns comes to mind, where you don't have to build houses. And at the beginning, on first glance, it might seem that the extra villagers and everything else makes it easier. On the flip side, like you mentioned, it does mess up the build order and anything else. And if he's just trying to learn that, it's a bit of a gutsy move. But I respect it for that reason.
Yeah. It is different. The
Blap is drushing Fatefiend.
What? Oh my, what is this? Wow. Combat right out of the gate. 13 minutes.
Game.
Yeah. So kudos to Teh Blap.
3 militia drush coming in.
Kudos to her
nice.
for starting with an attack right out of the gate. Now, Fatefiend, I'm guessing he probably doesn't know what to do here, because I see him running from side to side. So, do I fight this? What do I do? He needs to take these villagers and garrison them into the town center.
Correct.
And he does that. There we go.
Yeah, here we go.
Abby, Teh Blap here is distracted, so I think, will they... Down to one militia escapes. Wow. Good move. Smooth move. That ended up with 2 villagers down, and 2 villagers for 2 militia is always a worthy trade.
That's and it's really not just the trade for the kills and deaths. You have to remember the idle time. You're forcing that idle time by putting them in the town center, and they're still there.
Yeah.
If they're there another 10 seconds or so, that correlates to another dead villager worth of vital time. So,
right.
Amazing. I don't even know what to say. I would never have done a drush in my first Age of Empires game.
It's impressive. That's pretty cool. That is very cool. At this point, we're about 16 minutes into the game, and I want to talk a little bit about the pros and cons from both players here. One thing I want to give Fatefiend is I really liked his use of the boar. Not only did he get them, he got them almost right away, and I think that's given him a massive, food lead early on. I think that was really solid. Good job. On the flip side, I will say with with Teh Blap here, I think she's doing a much better job producing out of both town centers, keeping the villager production going.
Right.
This is something that, I think we mentioned in the last quarterfinal, and to an extent even the quarterfinal before that, where the numbers I want you to keep an eye on are the villager counts and the idle TC time. And now let me add one thing here. I am very sympathetic to this map in particular. It is very difficult to play Budapest efficiently. I still don't think I have a hang of it. Let alone, if Budapest is your very first game playing AoE, or your third game, or whatever, your first competitive 1v1 game, Budapest is a wild, strange map. So it is difficult. But just looking at the numbers in front of us, I think Teh Blap is doing a better job producing vills. We have 25 to 11 out of the gate here. And the auto TC time means that she's doing a better job producing out of both town centers.
Blap has just taken, she's building militia out of her top barracks, and she just grabbed, I think, at least one of the scouts, and maybe the only one Fatefiend had left. I'm not seeing the other one on the screen, so that aggression is still there.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a one and done. She's still producing militia. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
She's producing them out of both barracks now. 12 militia on the scene, and we're not even 20 minutes in the game.
Yeah, there's 10 over here wanting to attack on the other side. This is impressive. I think that the impulse for a noob player, I was talking about this with a friend the other day, the impulse is typically you are hesitant to begin attacking early on because you don't know how strong units are, you don't know what's good and not good, and so the temptation, the tendency, is to sit back and wait until you're in the Imperial Age and you've got every possible technology and you can't possibly get stronger, and then you finally unleash that punch.
Right.
I think Teh Blap is not just making the right kind of move in this particular game, but she's pushing herself. She's going to learn the game faster by playing this way, by playing aggressively, playing early on, figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And in this particular game, it seems to be working.
I will agree with that.
Now, one of the things that
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that one of the things that she has to be aware of, or she may learn, we're going to see, is there's no way you win the game with militia in the Dark Age. She cannot fight this town center and win like that. I would be shocked if she could. She'd have to build a lot of militia. But can she shut down the economy? Can she dictate the terms of the match? Absolutely, she can do that. And find some more sheep.
Absolutely can. And while, yes, obviously you and I both know that it is not the most efficient road to go this all out in the feudal age, it's the instinct that I'm concerned with.
Yeah.
Because, again, these players are brand new. They haven't had time to figure out what works and what's efficient. And so what we're really seeing here is instinct v instinct.
Mm-hmm.
And so I appreciate you talk about it all the time, the killer instinct, the go for the throat feel. And even with the militia that she's produced, she's already teching up with a lot of food in the bank. So
now let's talk about Fatefiend for a little bit and kind of his situation. And this is going to highlight, I think, maybe something that we can take forward into future games, which is, what is your game plan right now? Like, what do you need if you're Fatefiend and you're playing this game? Let me actually move over here. There we go. That's what Fatefiend sees. What is your situation? Well, you probably want more villagers. Is the first thing. You want more economy. You almost always want more economy. And so to get more economy, you want food. Now, the trick of it is I see that the villagers that he has tasked to work right now, he's got a couple on gold, and then he'll put some on wood, which is great if you're planning on going into archers, right? Because archers, you've got the food, you've got the wood, you want that kind of thing. But if you're focused on whether it's getting more villagers out, or also the militia. Militia costs 60 food and 20 gold, if I remember right. And so you want a little bit of gold, but you also want a lot of food. So I think the early boar moves were the right moves. You want to take advantage of these sheep. You want to be, using the sheep and getting the food from there. You want to take advantage of those berry bushes. Each bush here has 125 food in there. And then build some farms, because the Chinese actually get a bonus. They get an additional, I want to say it's an additional 50. What is that bonus? Let me see here. It's like yeah, farms get 10% more food with the Chinese. So, they're just opportunities. You want to kind of make food your primary focus, and then wood right behind it, so you can build more houses, build more buildings, that sort of thing. And then focus on gold as your third main resource, so you can get those power units out, the infantry, the archers, the knights, and then stone is probably the last one you want to concern yourself with if you want to build castles or stone walls and that kind of thing. And he has made that switch. Now he's got 11 on food, and that's good. Get the food production going so you can catch up, you can get into feudal age, you can get vills producing. We'll see what he can do from here.
Agreed. Men-at-Arms upgrade has come in for the Blap, and now some spears as well. I don't know if that's the right call, especially because Fatefiend is still in the Dark Age. There's not anything he can build that a spear would do any good against. So, but having said that, I do respect the idea of wanting to get more of other things than just the one thing we've gone into.
Yeah. And I think there tends to be the sense when you're dealing with a new player, the thought of, I don't want to be surprised by something. I don't want to be caught off guard, so I'll build a little bit of everything. I'll build a couple of swordsmen. I'll build a couple of spearmen. I'll build a couple of archers. Maybe a couple of... If she uses this, I have a prediction. I predict that she builds a couple of archers and then a couple of skirmishers too. It's just for that flexibility. I don't want to be caught off guard. When really, what tends to be the better approach is to focus your efforts on one main unit. Okay, I'm going to go all in on archers, and then I'll have a second unit as backup to cover the weaknesses of the archer. Or I need spearmen in order to deal with this knight threat or the scout threat that's coming at me, and then I'll use this other unit as sort of a backup plan for that, or a second unit there. But compositions tend to focus on 2 or 3 key types of units, and we'll see if there's kind of a focus or not. But I have a prediction that might be what's going on there. I was going to say, by the way, too. And this is, again, to Fatefiend's credit, or one of the things I would point to when it comes to Teh Blap here, is, first of all, the boar are actually one of the fastest sources of food that you can collect. Villagers gather food from boar faster than almost anything else. The exception is shorefish. So taking advantage of the boar is an opportunity for future games, making sure that you're using those. Just leaving them out here, not the right move. Also, looking at the stone, notice how long it takes these villagers to walk all the way back and forth from the town center to the stone, back and forth. It is worth it to throw down a mining camp, just like a tile away. And that way, they only have to move, one tile back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You'll get stone a lot faster in the long run.
And she does have a mining camp on stone, but she's not mining from it.
Yeah. So let's go back over here. Meanwhile, we're back in the...
has made good use of his town center's garrison feature. He's managed to deal with pretty much all of the men-at-arms who were in his face a second ago.
Yeah.
Which balances the military score quite a bit. It won't give him control back, but he's no longer facing an utterly overwhelming force. He does need to get up to the feudal age, though. Like you said, you're not going to win this game in the Dark Age, so do what you can.
Right. Yeah, I have a lot of sympathy for these guys because the game, first off, the game itself is complex. But then again, Budapest just complicates it. I was really hoping that this would show up in the tournament sometime, but I also have a little bit of sympathy for it showing up at this point in the tournament.
Right.
Why couldn't it have waited for a semifinal match? I think that kind of chaos would have been perfect.
I agree.
One other thing I want to talk about with the map, I did just mention that the only thing faster gathering than boars is shorefish. And there is an opportunity. I don't know if either player will take advantage of it, but these side lakes have quite a few fish. Each fish has 225 food, and there is, it looks like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we got 8. Yes, 8 different piles of 225 food that gathers very quickly. So one thing that, if you're hurting for food or if you want more food, throwing a dock down and getting the fishing ships out will be a powerful boon for you. We'll see if either civilization takes advantage of that.
Indeed, we will. I know if I were them and I were in their shoes, it would
Mhm.
be just bandwidth I wouldn't have.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, I'm already trying to figure out these 2 town centers.
Yeah.
I've probably never played with 2 town centers before. It's
Yep.
crazy. It's weird. And you have the added bonus. You're not even playing it for the first time just against an AI. You're playing it against another people. And you might have a Teh Blap who comes and steals your sheep or whatever.
Yes.
You know, and that just makes it even harder. So you said you have sympathy, and I certainly have that, but I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face because it's true. What I have is respect for both players.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel that way. And Fatefiend going up to the feudal age with, again, good food focus at the same time as Teh Blap here hits castle age. One of the things I like using the hunters. Taking advantage of the deer, the food resources. Very good. Very good. You got the berries here, again, as an opportunity. And what you could do, just a little pro tip, you could build the mill like right here, and then you get access to the berries, and when hunting these deer, they'd only have to go back and forth, to the mill, so they wouldn't even have to go all the way to the town center. But yeah, so far, I feel like Teh Blap, and perhaps partly because of that militia rush, which was very effective, and I think was, again, a great impulse. She has a sizable lead entering into 37 minutes into the match here.
Agreed. And a lot of that, I think the initial impulse, I think you called that straight up. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it's also the villagers. She's been pretty good about keeping that town center going, turning out the villagers, and she hasn't lost to the rating the way Fatefiend has. And so you put those two together, her eco is going to be significantly ahead. Mm-hmm. Fatefiend does make it to the feudal age.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I see is, again, Teh Blap appears to have taken a defensive approach. I think her strategy is, I attacked, I got some villager kills, and now I want to make sure that I have a really well defended. I don't want to be caught off guard. I don't want to lose anything here. So I'm going to focus on the defense now. I'm going to get a castle up, get walls up. This is definitely a personality choice. I think different players will play this differently. There is wisdom in sort of securing the lead that you have. And so I think that's a fair move. What I would personally do, and I like that she's queuing up knights now, the question does become, how are you actually going to win this thing? How can you continue to put pressure on and try to win the game, right? So I like the knights move, and the knights are good choices for actually trying to drive home a win here.
I think you're right, especially because unless Fatefiend techs into spears, getting the technologies for them, even if he builds some spears, a few knights will still be able, and he does have some spears. He has 4 of them, so that's nothing to sneeze at. But 2 knights, 3 knights will make short work of them. So,
yeah, one of the tricks is, yes, the spearmen are the correct counter to cavalry, but even then, if you have feudal age spearmen versus castle age knights, I mean, if I click in here, the knight has 10 attack, 2 base defense. The spearman has, let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Spearman has 3 attack and, well, actually no defense, no base defense. Now, he does get 15 bonus attack versus cavalry, so there is a lot of extra power there when dealing with knights. But it's very easy to get a good mass of castle age knights and overwhelm. Oh, wow. Yeah, we got some action here.
Yeah.
Fatefiend going on the offense.
Now,
I think.
I like this, and I was going to say this. I want to say this real quick while you were finishing up. I like that he immediately went into spears. It's like he knows that the correct move when your opponent goes castle is cavalry, and a lot of times it is.
Yeah,
and
especially the Lithuanian.
He doesn't identify it. He doesn't see it. He just builds the spears, and I
that is the right
appreciate
move.
that foresight.
Yep. This is the right move. But and not to mention again, I don't know if this was the plan, but to Blap's credit, she has men at arms to deal with a significant spearman force, because that is the correct counter to her counter.
Correct.
So I don't know if that's the plan.
You called it. A couple skirmishers, a couple archers. I just want to point that out.
In the archer range, yeah.
Yeah.
What am I doing? Yep. On the offense. Now, if there were a sizable like villager presence that immediately garrisoned into the town center, I don't know that this attack works. Wait a minute.
Hold on.
Wait a minute.
Men-at-arms coming in from the flank. They get a perfect angle on the archers.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want.
Down. The skirmishers go down.
That's a good move by Fatefiend. Good move. Does Teh Blap even see?
If he puts his villagers in now, he straight up wins that fight. And even if she doesn't, it doesn't look like Teh Blap sees it. He might win it anyway.
Yep.
Well done.
One thing to recognize too is, like I've said before, the text mean nothing if you, or the age means nothing if you don't use it. When it comes to an infantry versus infantry fight, Teh Blap's completely feudal age. Yeah, she's in the castle age, but men at arms, the feudal age tech, the blacksmith upgrades are all feudal age, just the feudal age attack. So that was pretty much an even fight.
Close enough.
Mm-hmm.
She has the first tier blacksmith upgrade, and he does not. So not quite an even fight, but you're correct. I do want to say, though, with that in mind, she made the correct call. She kited back to her castle and then fought under its cover. It wasn't a run; it was a strategic repositioning, and I like seeing those types of things because they take time to learn. And I've been constantly surprised with each and every one of these players. They're doing things that I go, I didn't do that until 20 games in, 30 games in. I didn't do that until I'd been playing for years.
Right.
I remember the first time I tried luring a boar, I lost something like 2 or 3 villagers to it, and then I tried to play without doing it again because to me, that's too risky. You might lose 3 villagers. And so I played for a long time. I wouldn't even go after the boar.
And I gotta say, I mean, this is a tough situation Fatefiend finds himself in. Now you've got the knights who, I don't know if that was, an auto pathing kind of thing, or if Teh Blap was looking out for opportunities to snipe villagers. But regardless, these knights are on the prowl, trying to keep the villagers from doing any kind of economic work. And he's stuck in a situation where, 9 vills, you need to produce economy, but you can't. I mean, if you go out to try to do anything, you're getting harassed by knights. Now.
Yeah, you are correct. Petard's coming in for Teh Blap and Imperial Age and Rams.
Yeah,
so
now
she's figured out that she's not going to take the town center by night fight.
Yeah.
She's lost a lot of people learning that lesson, but she's making the correct redirect going into siege weapons. Let the siege weapons deal with the buildings, and the knights do what they're good at. Hunting down poor innocent women and killing them while they try to harvest food.
Yes, the knights are very good at that. Yeah, look at this. See, again, Fatefiend knows what he needs to do. It's just, how do I do it when these stinking knights won't leave me alone?
Right. And it's a hard position to be in, and it's an annoying position to be in.
Yeah, there we go. Knight down, and now you're safe. Go out, get the sheep. Yes. I'll give Teh Blap this credit too. One of the things, she recognizes her civilization. She knows that knights are the right call when you're Lithuanians. I mean, I don't think that's blind luck. I think she knows if I'm playing Lithuanians, I want to go cavalry. Now she hasn't. She's not using the relics. I don't know if she knows about them. Yeah, she sees 2 relics. So maybe it's mental bandwidth. She's got so many other things going on that taking advantage of those relics is just not on the docket. But she knows to go knights. Good moves there. Again, like you said, Fatefiend making the right calls by going spearman. That was the correct counter unit. again, a lot of areas where you got to give these players credit. I'm really impressed.
And I appreciate his tenacity.
Mhm.
I've appreciated the tenacity of the players so far, and it's clear to me that, like we said in the beginning, this is a Noob Cup. You're dealing with players without a lot
Right.
of experience, and so Fatefiend is here. He doesn't know the optimal placement of lumber camps to woodline, which is it's
Right.
just something that's got to come with time, right? But
Right.
he's still hanging on. He's still trying to get the wood and the food necessary to churn out the spears.
Mhm.
I have a lot of respect for that mindset, because a lot of people would have thrown in the towel 10 minutes ago and said, "Well, screw this."
I'm going to
It's not working.
guess, because I think Fatefiend has watched the previous matches. So probably part of what's going through his head is either he doesn't know about the farms, because you can put farms right around your town center and you can get food that way, right? He either
Right.
doesn't know about the farms, or, and I've been in this situation myself, where you're saying, okay, I want to put farms down. Wait a minute, why won't this game let me put down farms?
Right.
I can't put down the farms. And maybe he's thinking, well, maybe it's a Chinese thing. You can't
Right.
access farms for some reason. What do I do to get farms?
You need to
love
build
this.
a mill.
And that's
Yeah.
right. That's what I was going to say is you have to build a mill first in order to unlock the ability to put down farms. So a
Right.
lot of times what you want to do is put a mill down right beside the berries, and then you collect the food from the berries, and then that'll let you build farms. But even better, I love that he's putting down the dock, and he's going to be taking advantage of the fishing
Nice.
ships.
Well, especially because he's got wood.
Yeah.
That's
He's got lots of wood.
And there's no opposition on the water. That
Right.
is a great move. I love seeing that.
Right. That is exactly the right call. Also getting in double bit axe. Very good. That
Good
means
for him.
you get more wood faster to build more fishing ships in order to get that food production going. He's got a transport ship queued up. He may be thinking about in the long term doing some kind of sneak maneuver sort of thing, but I'm guessing we're going to see some fishing ships.
Yeah.
But will it come in time? Because we have Teh Blap's Imperial Age army. I say Imperial Age, but really
it's a Castle Age army, but
yeah,
it's in the Imp Age.
Right. Castle Age army coming down, and this town center was already weak. It goes down quickly, very quickly.
It doesn't take long with rams, and especially if you've got petards in tow, well, it's just going to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is essentially clearing up this side of the map.
Capped rams for the Blap, and a good mix of units. She's
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
a bit of cav, a bit of
Cap
infantry.
ram. Nice.
I will give her this. She is upgrading the units she's using.
Mhm.
I was watching this when it happened earlier, and I didn't want to say anything then, because you were talking about how the right move is to go into knights, and I thought it would probably happen. I love how there was a point where she had mainline infantry. She was just beginning to switch into cav, and she got the blacksmith scale armor, or scale barding armor.
Right.
And I didn't know if she was actually going to make that switch then, but you clearly see here this has been her plan all along.
I noticed that too.
Primarily cav and siege.
I noticed that too. You could tell that her game plan was, I want to go into knights, and so I'm going to get the blacksmith upgrades for knights. I really like that.
When the upgrade came in, there were a lot more infantry than cavalry on the field. You might think, well, that's a waste. Get it for the infantry first, because it's what you have. Yeah, maybe. But right now, it's been much better for her to get the scale barding armor rather than the scale infantry armor.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
I like seeing it. She's also building monks, so clearly the relics is something that she's thinking about.
Yeah, that's something that's definitely worth talking about, is when it comes to these techs, is there can be a temptation to think, well, I have access to all these technologies, so I want to get them all, right? But why would you waste resources getting, padded archer armor when you're never going to build archers or skirmishers? If you're going to go all in knights, then just save the resources either upgrading your knights or building more knights.
And people will tell you, well, you never know, just get it just in case, because I've got a lot of resources. You need to remember, if you've got a lot of resources, that's its own problem. It's called floating. Spend those resources on what you're using.
Now, one of the things I've got to love, Fatefiend realizes this is a lost cause. He can't defend. And so what he does is he actually takes 2 villagers and he's hightailing it over to the other side of the map. He's going to try to sneakily, I'm guessing, sneakily build a base in the corner somewhere where she won't notice.
Correct. I call this rabbiting, and I love it when a player successfully rabbits. It is a beautiful thing.
Now, at this point, if you're in Teh Blap's shoes, let's go ahead and let's move over to her perspective. All right, so this is what she can see. And you might be thinking, okay, I've cleared out this base. I've cleared out this base. What do I do? What are my options? If you look in the castle, there is a technology called spies. And spies cost a certain number of gold, more gold depending on the number of villagers that your enemy has. So, if you've only got two or three enemy villagers on the map, it's a pretty cheap tech. If they have hundreds of villagers, it's pretty expensive. But it's a great way of just, if you research that tech, you get to see everything your enemy sees. And that's an option for a situation like this where you're saying, boy, I've destroyed everything. Fatefiend's hiding. Where on earth are those villagers? That's something that you could do. As is right now, Teh Blap's going to have to scout around with knights. And note, by the way, that because there's an infantry unit, the whole army is slower because it's moving only as fast as the slowest unit. If she tells that knight to go somewhere else, or the infantry to go somewhere else, and just commands the knights, they'll move a lot faster.
She probably realized that it's why she left the Rams behind.
She caught it. She caught it. Or maybe it was luck, but either way. This is sad. She just wants to build a house. What's wrong with you people? Leave her alone. No! No!
Because she has done nothing.
Rest in peace, Vivian the villager. Goes down. And there's this. How did you even get over here, dude? What are you doing? You could not protect your villager, buddy. What's wrong with you? Oh no, and here we go.
Along as an escort, and all he does is run. If I were that villager, I'd feel betrayed.
Here we go. Down to the last villager, hiding among the trees right here. I'm thinking, let me put it this way. If Fatefiend can pull something off, it would be an impressive display. I'm thinking at this point, I don't know, dude. What is your game plan? You've got a stick. You got that shepherd's cane.
He does have a stick. Building a house.
Right. I mean, it's.
I wonder why he's starting with a house. You don't need a house to build a.
No. You don't need a house to build a town center, and that's definitely. I don't know if Fatefiend's maybe just trying to do stuff and just see how long he can survive, or if he's wanting to get back in the game, he needs a town center to build more villagers. But it does look like Teh Blap looks like she's getting the relics. Yeah, I actually see now the relics are gone. So that's how many.
Yeah, she's already gathered 2, and she's going for her, third and fourth.
All right, where's the monastery? Hold on.
The monastery's up near where.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Slip by.
Yeah, already 2 down. Oh, there's the right building, the right move, but.
Yep, but
there it
is,
late. And now. And I'm actually surprised that the game is still going, but technically there's a dock on the map.
That's correct.
So I'm going to go to just fast forward this because there really is not.
It's only to go one direction.
There's nothing that can possibly be done at this point. At some point, Teh Blap will move on and take out the stock and out of the game. So.
Correct.
Oh, or she builds a wonder, asserting her dominance.
That is another way to get around the problem. Build a wonder.
Because of course, in the Noob Cup we have enabled relic victories, wonder victories. It's all an option. So
I'm fast forwarding as well, just because it's down to the clock at this point. no villagers left on the map. There's no way Fatefiend
Here we go.
can
Yeah,
bring any
here come the
forces to
battering
bear.
rams. Let's take that. The final production building. And when you've lost all villagers and all production buildings, the game is done. So, good games from both players here. Well done on game 1 of quarterfinal C in the AoE2 Noob Cup. You know, the funny thing about the AoE2 Noob Cup is we don't only have noob players playing in the tournament. We also have noob casters casting the tournament. Originally, Hiram and I cast these games back to back, and we had a live audience watching the games. It was a great time. We had a lot of fun. Everything was going perfectly, and yours truly forgot to hit the record button. So I've gone back, I pulled up a replay, and I'm going to provide again, kind of another cast for you guys on YouTube to make sure that you're up to date with the tournament. So we have Teh Blap here in the blue playing as the Persians, and we have Fatefiend in the orange playing as the Goths. A couple of interesting civs, really fun choices. I think the Persians are one of the civs that I personally find a lot of fun to play. The Persians are interesting because they don't have a lot of bonuses, but the bonuses that they do have are very strong. The Persians start the game with an additional 50 food and 50 wood, which is really nice, especially for a kind of a noob situation. That extra level of the starting resources helps smooth over a lot of initial inefficiencies in your early build. And I think that can be very useful. And then on top of that, your town centers and your docks work faster and faster with each age. So in the Dark Age, your town center works at the exact same speed as everything else. But once you hit the Feudal Age, you're producing villagers faster than other civs town centers produce. And then in the Castle Age, it's even faster. And then in the Imperial Age, it's even faster. So if you're going for a big, kind of a big eco boom, you want to get up to 100 villagers, the Persians will often do that faster than other civs. It's a pretty neat bonus there. And their team bonus is really neat too. Knights do an additional +2 attack versus archers, which is pretty neat if you are having an archer versus knight fight, or a knight versus archer fight. Fatefiend over in the orange here playing as the Goths. The Goths are another fun civ. They get Loom almost right out of the gate. I mean, you have to pay the 50 gold, but it researches almost instantly. So that means your town center's not having to use up the time to research Loom. And Loom is a very important technology because it makes your villagers much hardier, and they will survive raids much better once you get Loom. Probably the thing that the Goths are most well known for is that their barracks units, their infantry, is cheaper with every level up, right? So that means that once you get to the Imperial Age, it's very easy. It's maybe not, it's more about quantity versus quality, or quantity being a quality all its own. You get up to the Imperial Age, and you are able to just swarm out infantry in a way that no other civilization can. The Goths are very good at that. They're very potent in the late game. Now, early on, looking at the early eco choices here, one of the things that we highlighted back in the live cast with Hiram was the balance of economy. One of the things that you want to do when you're starting the game out and you are trying to figure out where should I send my villagers, what should they be doing, is you should realize that not all resources are created equal. That you need to think about what your game plan is, and then think about what kind of resources you need to make that game plan happen. So, if I look at Fatefiend in the orange here, he is kind of splitting his villagers out, and right now it's 10 to 10, so they're even on the eco count, they're even on the idle TC time. It's pretty even so far. But what we see Fatefiend doing is splitting his villagers up among all the possible resources. He wants a balance. He wants a balanced economy, right? So we've got 3 on food. I've got 1 on wood, 2 on gold, 3 on stone, right? But what we have to realize, and that's good as a long-term plan, to have a balanced economy, to get a little bit of everything. That's a good long-term goal. But in the early stages of the game, you want to be asking yourself, what is my focus? What am I going to be doing with these resources? And, you know, early on, the whole point of the game is to be building more villagers, getting more economy going. And any villager that you have on stone, for example, is a villager that you don't have on gold, or you don't have on wood, or you don't have on food, right? And early on, it's all about food, because you need food to produce villagers. You need food to produce, if you're going to build any militia, like we see Fatefiend doing here, you need food for that, as well as some gold. If you're going to tech up to the feudal age, you need food. So food is probably the most important resource in the game, especially in the early age. Wood is likewise an essential resource in order to build all the buildings you want to build, whether that's houses to increase your population limit, barracks, I mean, anything you're going to build buildings-wise, unless it's a castle, which uses stone. Otherwise, you're going to be using wood. So early on, food and wood are the most important thing. Gold, if you're going to be building a lot of militia, because they do cost some gold. So if you're planning on building a lot of militia, maybe you want to go on gold. Or maybe if you have some sort of long-term plan, go on gold. Now, I will say, I love, he sort of made a switch where now he's got a lot of villagers on wood, or on food, or he did. Are they going back to stone? Yeah, they are. I love that he's pulling in the boar. That's great. That's fantastic. That is exactly the right choice. Bringing in that food, because boar is one of the fastest ways you can get food in the game. So that's good. But bringing it back to the balance here, you want food, you want to prioritize food and wood. Those are the most important resources early on. Gold will have some use early on, but you know, you're not really going to be using gold a lot in the early stage. So often it's better to focus on you know, food and wood, and then after you've really got a solid economy going with those two resources, then you start moving on gold. And then stone you cannot use in the Dark Age, you know, at all, unless you're going to like rebuild a town center. You know, stone, unless you have some sort of plan to go like fast castle drop, or a tower rush in the feudal age, you're really not going to be using stone for some time. So stone is probably the last resource that you want to put villagers onto, and you want to wait for stone until you have a good food economy, a good wood economy, and then a good gold economy too. Now, what we're seeing over on Teh Blap's side, I think, if we were to rewind the clock and go back to when it was 10 villagers and 10 villagers, they had kind of that even vill count, but Teh Blap, I think, was doing a little bit better of a job as far as focusing her economy on those key resources. We see here, she has 7 on food and 5 on wood, and prioritizing those resources. She's even bringing in boar. Good for her. She has loom up, so she will not lose that villager. Good for her. You know, so a good job producing food and wood, focusing on those, and then once you have that food economy established, that wood economy established, then you can move on and go to gold and then stone after that. Both players, and I want to give them credit for this, both players producing militia early on, and this was a surprise to Hiram and I when we watched this game, is the focus that both players have on getting a military presence out early. That is a great impulse to have. Whether that's defensively oriented, because I think Fatefiend is a little bit concerned about, you know, what happened with the previous game. He does not want to get rushed again. So I think he wants a military up to make sure that he has something to defend himself, defend his base with. And that's a good move. Or then, you know, Teh Blap likewise. Maybe they want to go offensive. Maybe they want to, you know, put the pressure on their opponent. I think that's a great impulse. One of the dangers that noobs get into sometimes, these new players, is they focus on the economy, because it does take a lot of mental bandwidth to get the economy running and figuring out what do I need to be building. That often they'll wait too long to get an economy up, and you know, I think that's something that we're not seeing here in these games. These are players who recognize the importance of having military on the field right away in order to either apply pressure or repel pressure. So really good job from both of them. And one thing, you know, again, I'm giving Fatefiend a lot of credit both for the military impulse, producing the militia. It's a great move, and we're going to be seeing from him, you know, a good focus on that military pressure. And then, likewise, luring in the boar. Good moves. Now here we have Teh Blap timing this well. Teh Blap advances to the feudal age, and at the same time that she hits feudal age, she attacks with the militia. Now, that timing can be very useful if she immediately follows it up with the feudal age techs. So that's upgrading your your militia to men-at-arms, getting in forging, getting in scale mail armor. You know, if you time things just right, you can hit your opponents with a 1-2 punch with the tech up and the attack all at the same time. Teh Blap goes on the offense. Fatefiend has the militia ready to defend. Now, early on, I remember when we were casting this, I was thinking, oh, he's gonna catch her by surprise. She's gonna be distracted. But no, she sees as soon as those militia show up that she needs to fight. Good on her for catching that. And she does ultimately take this win. Fatefiend does have the elevation advantage there. And now Teh Blap has it. So she ends up with, you know, 1.7 militia there. We will see Fatefiend. He will respond to this. He's not going to let her harass him unopposed once again. But again, coming back over to the economy here, we have 6 on food, 5 on wood, 4 on gold, 2 on stone. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good balance. Again, if you were to look at, let's say you have 100 villagers, you'd want the majority, let's say, you know, 30, 40 vills on food, 30, 40 vills on wood, and then the remaining split up like maybe 20 on gold and 10 on stone or something like that, right? However those numbers break down. You want your priority on food and wood, even in the late game, let alone in the early game. Focus on your food, focus on your wood, and then gold and stone kind of follow after that at lesser amounts. Because villagers gather from gold and stone much faster than they do wood and food. So you also, as a matter of necessity, you want to prioritize food and wood because they do come in slower. Let's go back over here. Now Fatefiend, he built up. He knew that, you know, there were more militia, so he waited till he had 3 militia, and then he went on the attack. Teh Blap decides to attack with spearmen, and this is a mistake. Spearmen are not very good against militia. They are trash units. And when we talk in the Age of Empires world, when we say trash units, we don't mean bad units, right? That's not what it means by trash. We're not saying they're bad. Trash units are specifically units that don't cost gold. So things like scouts only cost food. Spearmen cost food and wood. Skirmishers cost food and wood. Those are examples of trash units. And a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, trash units are good in very specific situations, but otherwise aren't that good in general. So spearmen are an example of that, where they are very good at taking out cavalry. So if you have a spearman going up against a scout, you have a pikeman going up against a knight, they're pretty good at that. They have a lot of bonus damage against cavalry, but in just a regular fight, if you send a spearman up against a man-at-arms, for example, that's a losing battle, and Fatefiend just proved that in dominating fashion. Now, what I'm going to do, because I think we saw with the last match that Fatefiend, he's got a lot of skill, and he's got a lot of potential to be a really good Age of Empires player, but I was later talking with him after the set, and he told me that the first game in this set was the second game of Age of Empires he ever played. So he kind of revealed to me he was having to learn a lot of this on the fly, which only gives me more respect for him, and you know, more. I'm more impressed with the moves that he is able to pull off. But it means that there are a lot of things that he needed to know in order to put up a fight in this game that he didn't. we saw in the last game and we're seeing in this one too, he's not aware of how to build farms. He doesn't know what that looks like. And so we're going to see Fatefiend struggle to try to find other food sources, and he's going to be looking for deer elsewhere on the map and sheep elsewhere on the map, and that's really not an option. You can't, if you're not farming, then you do not have a stable food economy that will allow you to support more villager production. You will not be able to produce militia. He's producing 1 spearman here with the last of his food. And now Fatefiend's kind of stuck up a creek without a paddle. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on Teh Blap. I'm actually going to speed up the game a little bit and just focus on her game and her economy a little bit and figure out, what we can discuss from there. So like I've been saying, I am going to speed up the game a little bit. Like I've been saying, I like the economic distribution. I appreciate that she is prioritizing her blacksmith. I think that's very good. We've been hammering home over the course of this set the blacksmith techs and how important they can be. I mean, it sounds like, well, +1 attack. Who cares about +1 attack? It's only 1. But you got to think that's an extra 1 attack for every attack from every unit you have. So if you have 5 units, that's, an additional 5 hits, 5 attack for every, let me put it this way, 5 points of damage for every attack, right? So if you got 5 knights or 5 men-at-arms who each attack the same building with 3 hits, that's an additional 15 damage. And it just scales more and more and more from there, right? If you're doing archers, the attack upgrades are particularly important because fletching, as well as bodkin arrow and the Imperial Age tech, they don't only give you +1 attack, they also give you +1 range. So they make your archers much more effective. So across the board, focusing on those blacksmith techs, remembering them, using them, very good job there. On the flip side, I will say, we see Teh Blap prioritizing infantry, and it's going to take her a while to switch over into cavalry. So the question that I have is, why not go ahead and get the scale mail armor tech? That is, again, +1 melee armor and +1 pierce armor for all of your infantry. That's both your men-at-arms and your spearmen, making them hardier, making them more resistant to enemy damage. I think that would be a good idea, and especially because it only costs 150 food, and even after taking up to Castle Age, you have that food in the bank. So, that's something I would have done instead of the scale barding armor. You are not yet going into cavalry, so if you were only building 3 infantry for a quick men-at-arms rush, and then you were going to go straight into cavalry after that, I would agree. Don't get the infantry tech. Just go straight into the cavalry tech. But if you are committing to a significant attack with infantry, go ahead and pick that up. That's a good idea. We do see Teh Blap going into the Castle Age and prioritizing those technologies. That's very good. Good job there. Now, one thing that we will see, and you're going to see over the course of the game, is Teh Blap never returns to the blacksmith. And when you hit the Castle Age, that's one thing that I would have, maybe not the very first thing that you do, but something to have in the back of your mind is to remember to go back to the blacksmith. If you are going to focus on cavalry, then that's great. Get those 2 cavalry techs. You certainly don't want to get every tech in the blacksmith if you're not going to use those units. Resist the urge to research everything without thinking about what you're actually doing and what you'll actually be using. If you are never going to build an archer or a skirmisher, researching padded archer armor is just a waste of time, right? Or like horse archers, that kind of thing. But if you are going to go knights, pick up that tier 2 Castle Age, blacksmith tech. Pick up that tier 2 scale barding armor tech. I am, again, she is successfully attacking Fatefiend here. She's wiped out most of his base, trying to stay away from the town center, which is a good move. She is balancing her economy and her attack well. So that's again, kudos to her. And Fatefiend doing what he can to stay in this. He knows to garrison his units. He knows that They can hide in there. They can shoot. So he's doing well there. But and here we have him trying to bring in some food from a faraway sheep. But it's not going to be enough for him to get back in this game. So we have, again, a castle going up for Teh Blap. Great job there. The positioning of the castle is all right. It's perfectly fine if you're focused on the castle as a production building for the technologies that the castle can bring. If you're using it as the building to research up to the Imperial Age, that's perfectly fine. Insofar as the castle is a defensive building, I think the castle's here is all right. I mean, you're protecting the town center. You are protecting some of the economy. I think it would be even better if it were placed fit in here so that you could cover not just some of the farms, but also the gold, also your forward siege workshop. But overall, good job there. One other thing I want to give her credit on is building multiple battering rams. This is something that, at least for myself as an 1100 player, I'm still learning. With battering rams, I tend to want to build, 2 or 3, well, 1 or 2, and call that a day. When really with battering rams, a lot of times you want to build 5 or more. Why is that? Well, it's because battering rams are not that difficult to repel. You must defend battering rams with your army, but it can be difficult if you're attacking a castle or if you're attacking a town center, because if you try to defend them with, say, archers, for example, those castles will shoot the archers to pieces. So you want to be able to rely on more than one siege unit. If it were a mangonel or an onager, it can outrange the town center. But battering rams have to get right in there, so it's a good idea to have more than one and have a set of them. We have Teh Blap going to the Imperial Age. Again, kudos to her, credit to her. This is well done. I like how she's not only on the offense, but also remembering to keep the economy going, keep the technologies going at home. This is well done. I also like how she is defending. I don't know if this was the plan or luck, but she is defending her battering rams with infantry. Now, it's not enough. The Goth villagers actually prove enough to take out the 2 men-at-arms. And 5 villagers will wipe out these battering rams. We actually see that the scout will come in, but Fatefiend will take out the scout. Don't underestimate the kind of damage that villagers can do, especially to siege units. They're actually pretty good at that. We have the Imperial Age. Now, something that I would advise Teh Blap on moving into the next set is take a look at these villager numbers. You're going to hear me hammer this home over the course of the series. If you look at the idle TC time, Teh Blap here on one town center has 27 minutes of idle TC time in a 52-minute game. That's half of the game. The town center is doing nothing, right? And we do have 37 villagers. We could probably have double that number, at least, 70 vills or something like that, right? So there's an opportunity there to make sure that your economy is even stronger. Remember to get in the habit of keep going back to that town center, see what's going on, make sure you're producing, make sure you've got that economy flowing. But this particular game is almost over. Teh Blap needs to find this last villager, and actually, in a bit of irony, Fatefiend, scrambling and struggling to figure out what to do, runs into a wolf. And yes, the wolf will end the game here. Run, run! It's not enough. And that is set C for our AoE2 quarterfinals. And again, I want to congratulate both players, Teh Blap and Fate. I think Fatefiend did a great job for again, this being his 3rd game ever, and having to learn the game in real time in a tournament. I mean, kudos to him for putting himself out there. And again, there were elements and aspects of what he did and how he played that show me that there is a really good AoE2 player in there. If he continues to improve and continues to learn the game, he's got what it takes to be a really solid AoE2 player. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in the future. And Teh Blap moving on into the semifinals, also demonstrating a lot of skill, a lot of really important techniques. I think maybe the most impressive thing from both players was the early game pressure, this realization early on of how useful it can be to build up a small force in the Dark Age or in the early Feudal Age and attack your opponent, put pressure on your opponent. Getting Vil kills is amazing. Even without the Vil kills, just getting army in that early economy and keeping villagers from doing their job can slow down your enemy so much and give you a massive economic advantage. So long as you're able to keep your own economy going and producing at the same time that you're harassing the enemy economy. I think both players demonstrated again, kind of a killer instinct and a pressure, a skill to pressure their opponents that I think is very impressive and is definitely something that they can bring into their future games to good success. So well done to both players. Congratulations to Teh Blap for moving on to the semifinals. And I think that covers it for this coverage. This is the Iron Kaiser signing out.